J-Bone here. Before I transform into Bonestradamus and predict the 2022 World Drivers' Champion for you guys, I want to let you all know that my career as an amateur virtual F1 driver begins tonight, Thursday, January 27th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, which is 12:30 a.m. UTC for my international audience. Tune in to twitch.tv/FormulaBone to watch as I begin my road to F1 video game career mode glory by racing in the Bahrain Grand Prix in my sim rig that I have that's complete with a steering wheel, pedals, a driver's seat, the whole 9 yards. It literally feels like I'm driving in a car, and I'll be competing in Formula One Grand Prix in my sim rig on stream on twitch.tv/FormulaBone. First one is tonight, January 27th, 2022 on twitch.tv/FormulaBone. In case you are not aware, I will be doing an entire season of F1 races that I will be the driver of virtually. I'm not actually exactly qualified to drive a real F1 car. I don't think anybody wants to put J-Bone behind a multi-million-dollar piece of machinery, but I'll be driving a virtual F1 Grand Prix, and I'll be doing an entire season of them between now and the start of the 2021 real-life F1 season. It's going to be a ton of fun. Twitch.tv/FormulaBone. All right, here we go. This is the Formula Bone F1 show. J-Bone! Welcome back to the Formula Bone F1 show, the Formula One podcast that never spinalas. I'm Jared Borislow, but you can call me J-Bone. Thank you for joining me here once again, and away we go. Today's first topic is Bonestradamus Predicts the 2022 World Drivers' Champion. So while I transform into Bonestradamus, which is my alter ego that can predict the future, except it's only the future as it relates to Formula One. It's a very specific kind of psychic power that I contain. I want you all to listen to this call that was left on the Bone phone that inspired this segment. Here it is.
Yo, what up? It's Jason. I'm calling from Columbus, Ohio. Just wanted to say, this podcast has made me an F1 fan. Started watching the F1 series on Netflix. My question is, Jared, who do you think is going to be the F1 champion of 2022? I personally think Lewis Hamilton is going to win.
The caller asked for Jared, aka J-Bone, but neither Jared nor J-Bone are here at the moment. It is just I, the one they call Bonestradamus, and my massive forward-looking brain contains the knowledge that you seek, caller from Columbus. By the way, if you want to hear your voice on the Formula Bone F1 show, like this Columbus man, leave a voicemail on the Bone phone at 833-200-0966. Before I give my official Bonestradamus pick for 2022's World Drivers' Champion, let's first revisit who the sports betting smarty pantses is in Las Vegas with their never-ending piles of data and algorithms think will finish the 2022 F1 season with the title. So according to the betting lines currently up on mybookie.ag, which I've converted into implied probabilities, because Bonestradamus does some crazy things, converting a betting line into an implied probability just means that I've turned the line from a standard money line into a percent chance that that money line represents according to the odds maker. Bonestradamus is crazy, guys. Okay, so odds makers think that Lewis has the best chance of winning at 46.3%. So the Vegas odds makers think Lewis has a 46.3% chance of being the 2022 World Drivers' Champion. Next up, close behind, is Max Verstappen, who the Vegas odds makers have given a 40% chance at winning the 2022 World Drivers' Championship. Followed by George Russell at 19.2%, Charles Leclerc at 9.4%, and Carlos Sainz at 5.97%. Every driver after the ones that I just said has been given under a 5% chance to be crowned the 2022 World Drivers' Champion. And yes, that includes Lando Norris, El Planzo, King Mazepin, Gotifi, and all the rest. As you can clearly see, Vegas very much thinks it'll be another year of battle between Lewis and Max, with a little room for chaos at the hands of new Mercedes man George Russell and the high hopes Ferraris added in for good measure. But remember this, Bonestradamus is not concerned with probabilities and data and algorithms and all that fancy schmancy mumbo jumbo, okay? Bonestradamus receives his wisdom from the bone gods, and they speak directly to Bonestradamus with only the truth on their tongues, okay? By now, after that monologue from Bonestradamus, you're probably thinking, oh my goodness, Bonestradamus is about to pick a crazy wild card pick, and because Bonestradamus relays information from the all-knowing bone god's mouth to his own tongue to the world, Bonestradamus must be about to tell me, which is you in this case, that a wild card is going to be crowned 2022's World Drivers' Champion. To that, Bonestradamus says, I think it's just going to be Lewis, to be honest with you. Unless Lewis does decide to sit out, which I highly doubt will happen for a number of reasons, I think we are going to get grudge Lewis coming in and absolutely dominating 2022 before retiring from the sport as world champion. Maybe potentially coming back after a year off, who knows. So saith Bonestradamus. Remember that Lewis has been the top driver in every race since Brazil, including the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix and the obviously the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. And by all accounts, Mercedes seem poised to put out another amazing car worthy of a 9th straight Constructors' Championship. So Bonestradamus thinks this is Lewis's year to try and prove that he's the GOAT, even though, of course, there are many people who will never call him the GOAT, even if he does top Michael Schumacher's record of World Drivers' Championships from a single driver. But I think, Bonestradamus thinks that, 2022 is going to Lewis. So in the name of full transparency, here are Bonestradamus' predictions for the top 5 drivers in the World Drivers' Championship standings at the end of the 2022 F1 season. So these are Bonestradamus' picks for at the end of the season, what 5 drivers will have the most points. P5, Bonestradamus thinks, will be Charles Leclerc. P4, Carlos Sainz. P3, George Russell. P2, Max Verstappen. And P1, I think Lewis Hamilton will be crowned 2022's World Drivers' Champion. Now, some people out there are being like, oh, you flipped around the Leclerc and Sainz Vegas odds. With how Carlos Sainz finished 2021, I don't really see why Leclerc has such a big advantage, honestly. Like, yeah, he's been in the car a little longer, but clearly that didn't matter at the end of last season. I don't know. I think Carlos Sainz is going to have a big, big year. And again, if you look at the Vegas odds, he only has, according to Vegas, a 5.97% chance of being 2022's World Drivers' Championship or World Drivers' Champion. So, I don't know. Might be sprinkling a little bit on the Carlos Sainz to win money line. Who knows? I don't even know. All of that, by the way, was the tellings of Bonestradamus. This episode of the Formula Bone F1 show is brought to you in part by a new sponsor that I love and I'm super excited to have supporting the podcast. It is Felix Gray Glasses. If you aren't familiar with Felix Gray, get ready, Freddie, because I'm wearing them on my face right now and I cannot wait to tell you about them. The good folks at Felix Gray create effective, research-backed products to improve humans' relationships with technology. It all started 5 years ago when Felix Gray set out to create eyewear that would make it easier and more comfortable for humans to stare at screens. Why? Because whether you like it or not, we all live in a digital world now, and that means we are forced to look at screens, and more screens all day, every day. And the thing about all these screens is that they are wreaking havoc on our eyeballs and brains and causing things like eye strain, headaches, and blurry vision. The blue light emitted from these screens is the culprit, and Felix Gray's clear blue light lenses filter 15 times more blue light than other clear lenses. 9 out of 10 Felix Gray customers experience relief from eye strain, headaches, and or blurry vision after wearing their blue light glasses. And Felix Gray Glasses don't just do a great job of protecting your eyes and brain from the evil of screens, they're also incredibly high quality and built to last. Like I said, I'm wearing them right now. They're just the kind of glasses where when you take them off, you hold them in your hand, they just feel so well made, you know? This isn't like a gas station sunglass. This is a high quality. They're hand finished in Italy. These things are great. So let me tell you a little bit more about Felix Gray's glasses. The frames are lightweight and durable organic acetate and are, like I said, hand finished in Italy. Their lenses are double-sided, anti-reflective, scratch resistant, and have the blue light filtration infused within the lens material itself. Now, Felix Gray's lame competitors, rather than infusing their filtration, often just put a blue light filtering sticker on top of crappy lenses, which obviously peels off and cracks, and is something that you can and should avoid entirely by shopping Felix Gray. If you're wondering, the style I'm currently wearing is the Kepler frame with the clear lens. Felix Gray also has sunglasses and amber blue light glasses, in which I own the Nash and Hamilton frames, respectively. Felix Gray has both non-prescription and prescription glasses available for those of you who already wear glasses and are ready to upgrade. Check out Felix Gray's full selection at felixgrayglasses.com/FBONE. That's FBONE, where you'll have access to free shipping, returns, and exchanges for a completely risk-free shopping experience. Try them out, and if you don't like them for some reason, I think you will, just help yourself to free shipping, returns, and exchanges. That is felixgray.com/FBONE, FELIXGRAY glasses.com/FBONE. Free shipping, free returns, free exchanges, felixgrayglasses.com/FBONE. Next up, with all the livery hype there is right now ahead of the 2022 car reveals, I thought I'd do a little livery history segment about the stranger than fiction story behind the legendary Alfa Romeo Quadrifoglio. You're probably all familiar with the Alfa Romeo logo at this point after the short video I made about it. If you're not familiar with it, I broke down all of the Alfa Romeo logo's confusing and potentially violent imagery in a short video posted on all of my social media accounts at Formula Bone. I highly recommend you go check it out and toss me a follow, of course, on all my socials and all that jazz. But that video, I guarantee you'll learn something from it, if not multiple things. And you'll definitely never look at the Alfa Romeo logo the same way again afterwards. Now, enough about talking about the main Alfa Romeo logo. Did you know that along with the iconic main Alfa Romeo logo, Alfa Romeo also has a secondary logo that's reserved for their high-performance vehicles, including F1 cars. It's called the Quadrifoglio, which is Italian for four-leaf clover. The Quadrifoglio brand, based on the logo, is Alfa Romeo's high-performance brand, similar to how Mercedes houses their high-performance models under the Mercedes AMG sub-brand under the Mercedes main brand. The Quadrifoglio's four-leaf clover design has adorned every Alfa Romeo F1 car that has ever raced, from that of the first ever Formula One champion back in 1950, Alfa Romeo's Giuseppe Farina, to Kimi Räikkönen and Italian Jesus this past season. And unless something truly insane and crazy happens, we will be seeing the Quadrifoglio again on the Alfa Romeo at the livery reveal ahead of the 2022 season. Now, the origin story of the Quadrifoglio is truly insane, and I am so excited to tell you guys about it because this might be the craziest thing you hear all day, if not all week. So in 1923, there were 4 Alfa Romeo RLs designed by Alfa Romeo engineer Giuseppe Moroni, all of which were to be driven in the 1923 Targa Florio race, which was the biggest race of its day back in the early 1920s. The 4 drivers selected to drive these cars were Enzo Ferrari, ever heard of him? Alberto Ascari, also ever heard of him? Giulio Mazzetti, who I've actually never heard of, and Ugo Sivocci, the star of today's story. Now, Ugo Sivocci didn't have the best luck, which is evidenced by the fact that his nickname, when translated from Italian to English, is literally the Eternal Second. So Ugo Sivocci had a history of getting so close to winning, so close to victory, but never being able to finish it. Phil Mickelson, he's somebody who is kind of thought of as an eternal second, even though he's won a lot of majors, but never at the US Open. I don't know how many golf fans are listening, but hey, how's it going? So in order to try and bring about some good luck for the 1923 Targa Florio, Sivocci had a green 4-leaf clover on top of a white square painted onto the front of his Alfa Romeo RL. The reason for the white square is said to be that the 4 points of the square represent each of the 4 Alfa Romeo drivers that I named earlier: Enzo Ferrari, Alberto Ascari, Giulio Mazzetti, and Ugo Sivocci. Legend has it that as the 1923 Targa Florio neared its end, Ugo, the Eternal Second Sivocci, was set to once again finish in second behind Alberto Ascari. But then, Alberto Ascari's car broke down 200 meters from the finish line. Now, Ascari ended up having his mechanics legally fix up his car on the track, and he was actually able to cross the finish line before Sivocci passed him. Except, in their excitement, and you can't make this up, Ascari's mechanics had boarded Ascari's car so they could cross the finish line with him in a sort of early celebration type deal. This resulted in Ascari's car being disqualified, more specifically, just his finish. So he was ruled that he had to go back, take his car back to where it had broken down, and finish the race from there without any mechanics on board. Now, the Eternal Second, Ugo Sivocci, led by his Quadrifoglio, ended up crossing the finish line before Ascari could go back and complete the race without his mechanics on board. Ugo Sivocci won the 1923 Targa Florio, potentially thanks to his Quadrifoglio, and thus the legend of the Quadrifoglio was born, but not solidified yet. Now here's where the story gets sad. Ugo, the Eternal Second, except that the 1923 Targa Florio Sivocci, tragically passed away at Monza a few months after the 1923 Targa Florio victory. On the car he was driving, which was an Alfa Romeo P1, there was no Quadrifoglio to be found. Some say this was due to some sort of design complication that prevented painted bodywork. Others say Sivocci simply hadn't had time to have it painted on yet because his crash was during practice. It's unknown, but this was seen as an omen by many. And so after Sivocci's death, Alfa Romeo decided to not risk the bad luck that could clearly come with omitting a Quadrifoglio, and it has appeared on every Alfa Romeo F1 car since 1924. Obviously, F1 started in 1950, but every race car, high-performance race car that Alfa Romeo has had since 1924 has had the Quadrifoglio on it, and then every F1 car from 1950, when F1 started, to the present day, has had a Quadrifoglio. The only change, though, about every Quadrifoglio after Sivocci's is that Sivocci's white square background was turned into a triangle to mark his passing. If you remember, the square was to mark each of the 4 drivers. So to honor Sivocci, they removed his point, turning the square into a triangle. What an insane story, you guys. When I was researching this, the original plan was just to tell the story about why there's a 4-leaf clover on the Alfa Romeo. And the deeper I dove, I was like, oh my goodness, what a crazy story. I hope you all enjoyed that. Shoot me a DM, Twitter, Instagram, wherever, if you enjoyed that story. If you want to hear more stories like it, I love telling little known tales of F1 history. I think it's really fun. I think it's a big reason why I wanted to do this podcast. I'm not the most knowledgeable F1 fan. I'm still a new fan, as you all know. But, you don't need to be an old fan to tell an amazing story from the history of an amazing sport. So it's partly why I'm here. Now, you all know to be on the lookout for the Quadrifoglio on the 2022 Alfa Romeo livery reveal coming soon. This episode of the Formula Bone F1 show is brought to you in part by my favorite leg garment manufacturers, Birddogs. I always talk about Birddogs. You know it because I love Birddogs so much. I wear Birddogs shorts, pants, and joggers constantly. I just scooped 2 new pairs of their joggers, and I love them so much that I recently decided to always jog now instead of ever walking so that I can be a true joggers guy. That's a true fact. I'm actually jogging right now down the street with a mobile podcast recording unit. You just can't tell because I'm in such good shape that I'm not even breathing heavily. Disregard the video, which seems to denote something other than what I just said. Birddogs built-in underwear. Yes, built-in underwear. Feels better on my skin than the finest cashmere, and is also super breathable and doesn't bunch up like traditional underwear. You can get Birddogs shorts, pants, and joggers with or without the built-in underwear, but let me tell you, you'll want to get the built-in. This stuff feels amazing. It doesn't bunch up. Super breathable. I love it. I wear it so much. Head to birddogs.com and get yourself the best shorts, pants, and joggers on planet Earth. And don't forget to use my code FBONE, FBONE, so that they throw in a free whistle tip football. If you're watching the video right now on YouTube, or even a clip, it's right in front of me right here. That's the whistle tip football you get. It's amazing. Remember those Nerf Vortex Howler footballs that whistle when you throw them? Birddogs version is even better. Rumor has it that Birddogs whistle tip footballs fly so far that F1 engineers study them to glean aerodynamics data so that they can then apply them to their cars. A lot of people are saying the 2022 F1 cars have been heavily influenced by the Birddogs whistle tip football. True story, maybe. Go to birddogs.com right now. Load your cart up with the best shorts, pants, and joggers available anywhere on planet Earth. Plug in promo code FBONE, FBONE, to get that free whistling football and live happily ever after. That's birddogs.com, promo code FBONE. There's a link for that deal in the description of this episode. Thank you to Birddogs for supporting the Formula Bone F1 show. Finally today, I'm a little late here because I forgot to mention it last episode, but I would be remiss if I did not comment on the January 14th hiring of Mike Krack to be Aston Martin's new team principal, replacing the departed Otmar Szafnauer. Now, the big story here is not about the shakeup at Aston Martin. That's seeing the departure of Otmar, the team principal that oversaw them finishing an astonishing 4th in the Constructors' Championship in 2020 under the name Racing Point back then, before they obviously had an underwhelming 2021 season as Aston Martin. No, this is not about Otmar's departure, having to be replaced. The big story is that Aston Martin have hired a man to be their new team principal, whose name is such a meme that I thought the news was a meme when I first read it. Mike Krack. My crack. That's a butt crack joke. And it's not even a butt crack joke you have to write. It's literally an inherent butt crack joke. Like you don't need to look for the joke. Mike Krack. My crack. Rumor has it that Aston Martin selected Mike Krack after flushing through a large bowl of qualified candidates. That included Seymour Butts, Hugh Janus, Joe Mama, Richard Head, Amanda Hugginkiss, and even Mike Krack's own brother, Phil Krack. My prediction for 2022 is that as far as the World Constructors' Championship is concerned, Mike Krack and Aston Martin will finish third. P3. Third place. Now, as far as Otmar is concerned, by the way, we're still waiting for him to be announced as Alpine's new team principal, which surely has to be part of El Plan, right? At this point, it's got to be. Thank you so much for joining me for another F1 off-season episode of the Formula Bone F1 show. Before I get going, I'd like to run you through the various links that I've placed in the description of this episode. So in the description of this episode, you can help support the Formula Bone F1 show financially by buying Formula Bone merch. There's a hat and a t-shirt at bolenmedia.com/shop. You can also support the show financially in an even greater capacity by supporting today's sponsors. Shop Felix Gray at felixgrayglasses.com/FBONE. for free shipping, returns, and exchanges on the best glasses around. It is truly risk-free. If you do not like them, there's free shipping, free returns, free exchanges. There's no risk involved. You might as well try them out at felixgrayglasses.com/FBONE. I guarantee you'll like them. I'm wearing them on my face. Wore them on my face the whole episode. My eyes feel better. I've been staring at a screen. Shop Birddogs at birddogs.com with promo code FBONE for a free whistle tip football with your order of the best shorts, pants, and joggers on planet Earth, baby. You can also, at a link in the description of this episode, join the 200 plus member Formula Bone Discord server with the invite link that I've placed in the description of the episode. And you can watch me live stream myself playing the F1 video game at twitch.tv/Formula Bone and talk to me in chat while I do it. Again, that starts tonight, January 27th, 2022. Again, every link I just mentioned can be found in the description of this episode. You can also follow me, J-Bone, everywhere on social media at Jared Borislow. That is JaredBorislow. And if you're now caught up on all the Formula Bone F1 Show episodes there are to be caught up with, but you want to keep hearing my voice, I co-host a comedy podcast called the Ross Bolen Podcast, where we share a ton of laughs covering a wide variety of topics, including current events, non-F1 sports, music, food, funny news stories. If you like this podcast, and if you made it this far into it, I assume you do, I guarantee you will like the Ross Bolen Podcast, which you can listen to wherever you're listening to this podcast right now. That's ROSSBOLEN, the Ross Bolen Podcast. Folks, it's time for the NPR-style sign-off. The Formula Bone F1 Show is recorded in Austin, Texas, and brought to you by Bolen Media. It's hosted by me, Jared J-Bone Borislow, and I also produce the show because I'm a content machine. Cade Orris makes a bunch of the show clips that you see on social media at Formula Bone. Our iconic theme music and Twitch stream music is by 7 to Midnight. You can follow him on social media at the number 7TO Midnight. You can follow the show on social media by following at Formula Bone everywhere. You can watch the show on YouTube by searching Formula Bone. And you can help the show gain new listeners by rating and reviewing the Formula Bone F1 Show on Apple Podcasts and by rating it on Spotify. Until next time, J-Bone!